Do you crave success and abundance in your business, but yet you can't seem to get what you want? For some reason, you're stuck. Something's blocking you. You don't know what. You don't know why. You're working really hard and doing everything you can, but yet you just can't seem to break through to the next level. What would you say if I told you that I can help you to banish the blocks to your business success using soul healing and magic? Would you laugh, or would you be curious and want to know more? One of my biggest fears when it comes to practicing alchemical soul healing and magical rituals is that some of the women that could benefit the most will find my work too woo-woo to be taken seriously. I'm sure some people are very turned off by my message that soul healing journeys can help them overcome blocks to their success, such as fear of visibility, imposter syndrome, feelings of not enoughness, or even anxiety and depression. I totally understand women feeling very cynical about the idea that regularly performing empowering rituals, moon magic, and spells will help them manifest the abundant business that they dream of. And as for using tarot and oracle cards to help them with decisions, well, that's just crazy, right? It's okay. Not everyone believes in magic or wants to start a nature-based spiritual practice. And that's absolutely fine. Because neither did I when I set out to heal my childhood trauma and the depression that had hounded me for over 30 years. Getting involved in spiritual practice came as a total shock to me. Why? Because my parents are part of a cult, and I was trapped in it with them between the ages of 8 and 15. They literally put the fear of God into me with their teachings. It put me off religion for life. The saddest part was that I was made to feel like my intuitive and clairaudient gifts were somehow demonic, so I suppressed them. Yes, spiritual abuse is a real thing, my friend. The idea of starting any sort of spiritual practice made me want to vomit. I avoided anything to do with religion and spirituality. God did not exist to me. How could a good God allow and encourage the abuse of innocent children? And believe me, whilst I was in that cult, I suffered all kinds of abuse. But as I grew older, I started to get the feeling that this God my parents had worshipped was a vehicle for men to get other men to do their bidding and to compel them to give them money. For me, there wasn't anything spiritual about that. And then I learned a valuable lesson. You don't have to follow organized religion or believe in a particular God to be spiritual or to make magic happen. This realization made me feel a little more open-minded, especially when I started having experiences that were exhilarating and magical again. The gifts I'd been suppressing for so long were still there, if a little rusty. My spiritual awakening began when I was standing amidst a field full of horses and feeling a part of their collective energy. They're like the four-legged version of the Borg from Star Trek. It's like they've got one mind and you can just tap into it. It's amazing. Standing on the mountain where I live now, I feel close to the moon and stars, and that helped me tap into the magic of the universe. I rediscovered my deep connection to plants. And as a bonus, it turned out that I'd got nothing to lose by dipping my toes back into the woo-woo water when it came to healing my own wounds and ending my lifelong battle with the black dog of depression. I tried everything over the years. Antidepressants almost killed me. I found endless talk therapy exhausting, but magic and creating a spiritual practice gave me my life and business back. Did you believe in magic when you were a child? I did. I believed that fairies lived in toadstools and all sorts of things. But then as an adult, I forgot. I lost my faith in all things magical. But my journey back into believing in magic started years ago when I was introduced to crystals. I wasn't a believer in the power of crystals. I knew nothing about them. I just thought they were pretty. It all seemed a bit weird, to be honest, but when someone gave me a small piece of hematite to take with me every time I go to visit my parents' house, I politely took it. Hematite is said to soak up negativity. I won't lie, I laughed at the size of the bit that I was given. My parents' house is so oppressive and soul-sucking, I cannot even begin to tell you. They say absolutely nothing positive about anyone, unless it's designed to make you feel small. So they might tell me how great my sister's doing, not because they're proud of my sister, but because it puts me down in some way. So they would never say to my sister, I'm really proud of you for what you're doing, but they would tell me how proud they are of what they're doing because it makes me feel bad. And in the same way, they would go to my sister, oh, Maria's doing this and Maria's doing that, in an attempt to make my sister feel small. Not pleasant. And then they start preaching, which, as somebody who suffered abuse in the cult that they're in, just makes me feel sick to my stomach. I reckoned I'd need a chunk of hematite the size of a horse if it was going to have any chance of soaking up all the negativity. Seriously, I used to have to lie down for 3 days after visiting my parents' house. It exhausted me. I would be emotionally, mentally, psychologically just tired out. Can you relate? Do you have somebody like that that just sucks all the positivity out of you? Now, I don't know if it had anything at all to do with the stone or not at the time, but I found I did start to be able to handle the negativity better. Every time someone said anything that brought me down, I would touch that piece of hematite and I imagined the negativity flowing right over me and into the stone. Why did it work so well? At the time, I honestly didn't believe that the hematite had any special properties. The key to its success for me was that I'd instructed my mind to let go of the negative comments. I'm an advanced hypnotherapist, and the biggest lesson that I've learned in hypnotherapy training is that the mind does exactly what it thinks we want it to do. If we give the mind clear enough instructions, it will follow them. And if we tell our mind something often enough, we will believe it. Not only that, but there is scientific evidence that rituals and talismans work. During my research, I found that scientists aren't quite sure how these things work. They just know that they do. Scientists believe that having rituals makes us feel more in control of a situation where we feel we have none. It's been discovered that people who are grieving will recover faster if they have rituals. So, for example, going to a funeral, laying flowers, even talking to the lost loved one. And they've discovered that sportsmen perform better if they have a talisman, for example, lucky pants or lucky socks, or doing certain things before they play a game. Which explains why that piece of hematite was so beneficial for me, whether it had magical properties or not. When we're wounded, we can feel hopeless, helpless, and powerless. And holding that stone made me feel more in control. It became an anchor for me, something that brought me back from drowning under my parents' constant criticism and judgment of me and others. I've since learned more about crystals and healing and discovered that they do work, but more on that in later posts. It's the same principle with the moon rituals that I practice. When I first started doing my letting go ritual under the full moon, I was only just setting out on a spiritual journey. I hadn't labelled myself as a green witch, a shamanic healer, or a believer in anything at all. All I did was have an open heart and mind, and this ritual felt really meaningful to me. Mother Moon feels really close to me here on this mountain that I live on. When we first came to Spain, my husband worked back in the UK, and I was often alone. And when I was lonely, I'd find myself sitting on the terrace at night just talking to the moon. So when I came across a full moon ritual, it felt like a natural next step. The more I did it, the more it meant to me, and the more I began to make an event out of it. My kids got involved, mostly I think because we were toasting marshmallows round an open fire, but they seemed to enjoy it anyway. Letting go helped my youngest child to release the fear she had of a monster under her bed. After that, I became more and more deeply convinced of the value of performing rituals. The feeling of being under the full moon halfway up a magical mountain is very profound. I feel tiny underneath the vast sky. My problems are all put into perspective as I contemplate the millions of stars that I can see shining down on this amazing planet we live on. That ritual awakened something within me, and I began feeling compelled to include prayers, incense, and chants in my practice. My connection with nature has become something much more spiritual. And on a practical level, I realized that my list of things I wanted to let go of, a list of things that had included the same things over and over for months and months, was actually changing. You see, when we do this ritual, we write down everything that we want to let go of. And then after meditating on that list for a while, we put it in the fire and let it go. And I realized that the things that had seemed so important to me when I first started out with this powerful releasing ritual, they just faded away. I was making new lists, shorter lists. After suffering from childhood abuse, being a member of the cult, suffering divorce, loss, abandonment, rejection, I'd felt wounded for so long, I can't even begin to tell you. But now these beautiful spiritual practices were healing me. These two small things were the beginning of my soul healing journey. Just as a side note, my retreats in Spain are always scheduled to include a magical full moon ritual. So if you're keen to experience something so moving and amazing and spiritual and gorgeous, try a retreat at my place. Terry Pratchett said, "Ritual and ceremony in their due times kept the world under the sky and the stars in their courses." There is no doubt about it. Rituals and magic work. It may not be magic to you, although I choose to believe it is. And maybe you find it hard to believe that spiritual beings are helping me. I choose to believe that Mother Earth, also known as Gaia, is helping me all the way. But regardless of what you believe, talismans, rituals, spells, whatever you want to call them, work. And so does soul healing. Scientists know it, witches know it, shamans know it, and me and my clients experience it every day. Depression, stress, overwhelm, burnout, anxiety, fear, limiting beliefs, all these blocks to our business success can all be massively improved through taking part in powerful healing rituals. And that can be life-changing. What I'm trying to say is, don't be afraid to try something new, even if it sounds a little bit out there. Don't miss out on getting rid of the psychological and emotional blocks to your success in business just because what I'm offering isn't as easy as popping a pill or visiting a therapist to talk about it once a week. My work is about taking your mind back to where your soul was wounded or lost, even if that was in a past life, and healing that wound through various exercises and rituals performed whilst you're in a hypnotic trance-like state. When you first get started, you don't actually need to be woo-woo or to believe in magic or a god to find comfort in some of the rituals that I use. The belief that you're letting go of the pain you've been carrying with you is all that matters. Although, don't be surprised if you find yourself so moved that you're drawn to start down a spiritual path just like I did. It could be the start of a whole new way of life for you. Fancy trying a little magic or soul healing? You'll find soul healing journeys, rituals, tarot readings, and more over in the Wild Fox Alchemy store at www.wildfoxalchemy.com/store. I'd love to see you over there. With love and magic always, Maria Gaian signing out.